I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 138, Resolutions. Your life does not have to revolve around your husband's pornography addiction. You are not defined by his choices or by what he sees on a screen. You are not just the porn addict's wife. You are so much more. In this podcast, I'm going to teach you how to go from handling it to healed, because I've been where you are and you don't have to stay there. My name is Jolene Wynn. I'm a member of the LDS Faith, a certified life coach, and a wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the porn addict's wife. Hello, my ladies. Happy New Year's. I am just sitting here. I am very sick still, but I have a little bit more of a voice than I did last week. And I was just sitting here and I was sitting down to record my podcast, and it is New Year's Day. Today is January 1st of 2023. Can you guys believe it? And I was just sitting here reflecting a little bit, and I posted about this on Instagram. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you can, at Jolene Wynn Coaching. And I posted about this on my stories, and I asked, I was actually kind of surprised. I said, who here has set a goal or resolutions for this year? And the majority of people who responded actually said they did not, which was surprising to me. And I did ask a question. I was like, as a follow-up, if you wouldn't mind sharing why. And I haven't looked at all the responses yet, but I was just sitting here thinking, I actually really enjoy reflecting on New Year's Eve every year. It's usually one of the things I love to do. Last night was not one of those nights. Last night, I actually went to bed at 7:00 because I'm very sick and have influenza. I feel like I'm living what is that game? Oregon Trail. Did you guys ever play Oregon Trail growing up? That's what I feel like. I was messaging my clients about that earlier this week. I was like taking a turn for the worse in our house, our illness. And I feel like I'm playing that game, Oregon Trail. Anyway, that's what it was like last night. Not a typical New Year's Eve. But we did talk a little bit about resolutions, and I wanted to share some of mine with y'all. And as I was sitting here just today thinking about resolutions, again, I usually really like to reflect on the year, and I like to reflect on what's coming up and shift my perspective a little bit, not just from a to-do list, which I used to do. I used to just kind of make these to-do list resolutions, and I didn't like those. And then 2 years ago, my goal was actually to learn how to set and make goals. Isn't that ridiculous? But I had so much emotion that would come up. I had so much fear of, what if I write this down and it doesn't happen? What if I write down that I want to lose weight and then it doesn't happen? What if I want to write down that I want to go get my master's degree and then I don't end up doing it? Isn't that embarrassing, right? I had so much emotion about all of it. And so one of the things that I worked on with my coach that year was actually learning how to set goals mentally. I knew how to do it physically. I knew how to actually sit down and write down a goal. But learning how to do that emotionally and going through that emotional process was huge for me. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that today in the words of resolutions. But one of the things that I wanted to offer y'all is, if you are the type, whether or not you're the type that likes to set resolutions, I want to encourage you to keep an open mind today and ask yourself, do I like to set resolutions or goals? Do I like to take the time to sit and reflect? And it doesn't have to be at New Year's whenever you're listening to this. If you're listening to this when it comes out, it's January 2nd, 2023. But if you're listening to this when it's not coming out, it doesn't matter. I want you to take the time in the moment to reflect. Do you like to sit down and reflect on where you are and where you want to go and set goals or resolutions? And if so, why? And if not, why? And it's a fascinating thing to look at, because there's going to be often a lot of thoughts and feelings that come up as a reason for why you do or why you don't. So again, for me, I used to not really enjoy setting goals because it would bring up a lot of emotion of, what if I don't hit it? That was my biggest question, right? And even if I didn't share it with, and I certainly didn't like to share it with anybody, that would be even worse, because not only what if I hit the goal and then I didn't, what if I set this goal and I didn't hit it and then I knew, but heaven forbid someone else knew, right? And then what? My brain thought that my world would collapse and my reality would shatter, And so it was something that I didn't enjoy doing. So I would set kind of these arbitrary goals of, okay, well, I'm going to exercise every day. Well, I exercise every day anyway. I crossed that hurdle years ago. So that wasn't really a goal. It was just kind of a perpetuation of where I already was, right? And now there's nothing wrong with that. But when you actually want to do something more, when you have something in your life, when you sit down and you think, what do I actually want to do that I've never done before? Or is there something I've always wanted to do and I haven't? There's a calling in you. Part of you really wants that. There's a yearning inside you for that thing. And it's probably outside of your comfort zone and a little bit scary, which is why it hasn't happened yet, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with sitting there and perpetuating what is and what has been. There's nothing wrong with that, usually because what has been is great and it's working really well. And our brain really likes that because we're alive and that's our brain's job. And so our brain thinks, let's just keep doing the thing we're always doing. Let's just keep exercising every day. That's a good goal. Lots of people don't have that goal. Lots of people can't hit that goal. So let's just keep it. That sounds great. And we just kind of keep it because it keeps us in our comfort zone, right? There's no fear in that for me. There's nothing scary in that for me. It perpetuates the norm. And again, there's nothing wrong with perpetuating the norm as long as I'm okay with that, as long as I am okay with being content, as long as I am okay with staying exactly where I am, because that's what happens, right? Perpetuating just means continuing the same. And as long as I'm okay with that, then I'm good. That there's part of me that doesn't want to continue the same, right? And if you're listening to this podcast, part of you has that same thought. Part of you doesn't want to continue the same because the same isn't what we want. There's part of us that wants something different, wants to overcome, wants to strive, wants to progress, wants to continue. There's something in us as humans that strives for progression. Part of us wants that. We want to continue on. We want to overcome. We want to conquer. We want to accomplish things that we didn't think we could. We want to do the impossible thing. Part of us really wants that. That's what enables humankind to keep progressing. That's why we keep inventing new things as a species, right? That's why we keep evolving. It's because we have this idea and this yearning to evolve, right? That's what evolving is. And I'm not just talking about in general, I'm talking about you specifically. We want to evolve. Part of us wants to become better. My goal in life is to become the very best version of myself that I can possibly be. And that requires progression, that requires evolving, right? And that means that I can't stay the same. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to become the best version of myself by perpetuating, by just continuing what has been. It's going to require me moving and stepping forward into new and scary things that I'm going to have to overcome in my own brain in order to accomplish, whether that's exercising every day for some people, or whether that's learning a new skill, or whether that's finally conquering my fear of whatever. Right? There are things that are blocking me from being the person that I want to be. And I love taking the time, and I would encourage you to take the time to sit and truly reflect and be honest with yourself about the answers of what do I actually want? And think about it less in terms of what you want to do and more in terms of who you want to become. Who do you want to become in this year of 2023? If 2022 wasn't your year, okay, right? Think of the Friends song. It hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. If 2022 wasn't your year, if you're not the person today that you want to be, what are you going to do differently in order to become that person? Who is that person? Who do you want to be? Who is that? How is she different? Is she more confident? Is she more loving? Is she more kind? Is she more patient? Is she more engaging? Is she more accepting of herself? What does she think about herself when she looks in the mirror? What does she think about herself, about her job? Does she love her job? Does she have a job? Is it different than the one you have now? Think about that version of yourself, the version that you want to become. If anything were possible, who would you become? How would you feel about yourself? How would you feel about your husband? How would you feel about your children? Right? All of these questions are so fascinating to actually take a moment and think and try and answer it, and not in a way that is judgmental, which is really tricky, but in a way that is self-reflective and honest and accepting. Because there's nothing wrong with you where you are right now. Absolutely not. 100%. You are 100% valuable. You're 100% worthy. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't have to change a thing. But if you want to, you can. And that's what I want to help you do. I want to help you take a look at that and see, okay, if I was going to change something about myself, what would it be and why? And how do I want to make it happen? Right? And if I think about myself, if you think about yourself in terms of who you want to become, then it's so much cooler. The goal that you set becomes so much cooler, right? Because then you get to think of, okay, how am I going to make that happen? For example, if I want to become a more confident version of myself by the end of this year, right? If I wanted to say, all right, 2023, I am going to become a more confident version of myself. Okay, well, what does that look like? How am I going to do that? What are the things that I want to overcome? Where do I see my lack of confidence show up? And what am I going to do in order to face that? Right? It's kind of like David and Goliath. Like, rather than just letting us, just like, oh my gosh, here's the Philistines. I just, there they are. There's this army that's just always going to be there. And every day there's this challenge and I don't think I can rise. I just don't have it in me. That's not what it is. Instead, it's David, and he's like, I've got this. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to face him head on with what I have, with what I know, with my own skill set. And I'm going to make a plan of action, and I'm going to do it on purpose. That's the difference. Rather than just sitting in anxiety about the fact that there's this army and this giant that nobody knows how to face or has the strength or the courage to face. Instead, you say, I have the strength and I have the courage, and I might be scared. I might take fear along with me, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it the best way I know how to do it. And I'm not going to take other people's armor. I'm going to take my own. I'm going to do my own thing. And I'm going to do it with God, and I'm going to take it on head first 100%. So I want you guys to think about, what is it that you want to become? Who's the version of you that you want to become? Do you want to become the more confident version of yourself? Do you want to become someone who isn't wrapped up around their husband's pornography problem? Do you want to become someone who no longer thinks about it? And how are you going to face that? For me, one of the resolutions that I have for this year that I wanted to share with y'all is a realization that I had just the other day. As you guys know, Rob and I have been going through a lot, and I know we keep alluding to that. It's probably driving you crazy. Is it driving you crazy that you don't know all the specifics? It's totally fine. My clients know a little bit more of what's going on, but even still, not everything. And maybe we'll share it with you when we work through it. But as we've been going through all of these things, just the other day I realized I am not happy with where I am mentally in my mindset around it. I've come to terms with a lot. I've processed a lot of emotion. I've worked through a lot of thoughts, but there's just kind of this general, almost sadness, but melancholy, I think would be a better word, and not a depression. I don't mean that at all. I just mean like in the way when I think about him and everything that we've been talking about over the last couple of months now, just kind of this general mindset of melancholy and even fatigue a little bit, right? Like I noticed my thoughts being, mentally tired. I'm tired of, emotionally handling this. And as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about, my mind kind of shifted, and I thought about faith. And faith is a decision that you make. Did you know this? This is a totally different topic. If you guys come join my coaching program, I have in there my old podcast, which was called The Cause of Christians. And I have a lot of podcast episodes about faith and choosing faith. And I actually, in my coaching program, I have a bonus webinar that I did for a women's faith conference. And the webinar that I did was all about choosing faith. And so that's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about how faith is a choice. It's a decision that you make daily. And I have never had a problem with that. I have always chosen faith. And so as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about my husband. And I thought, if I can choose faith in God, and I can choose the way that I think about God, and I can choose my mentality about him, and I can choose the things I think, then I can choose the things I think about my husband. And I can choose that mentality, and I can choose that mindset, and I can choose that framework. And if that's true, then why am I choosing the one that I am? And do I want to change it? I think this was Saturday, y'all. I think this was yesterday or Friday that I was thinking about this. And I thought, you know what? I do want to choose faith, because the opposite of faith is fear. And so when I choose faith in God, the opposite of that is fear. When I'm afraid, I am not choosing faith. When I am doubtful, I am not choosing faith. And that's what I recognize, the same parallel with my husband. When I have doubts, when I'm feeling doubt, when I am feeling insecurity, when I am feeling fear, all of those are the opposite of faith. And I can choose faith. And that is one of my resolutions for this year, for 2023. Let me pull up my notes here, because that's where I always keep my resolutions, is in my notes. And that's what it says. It's to choose faith. One of my resolutions this year is to choose faith in God and in Rob. Now, as I'm giving this example to y'all, what I want you to think about again is, okay, what kind of mindset shift? Who do I want to be, right? I want to be the type of wife who has faith in my husband. I want to believe him when he tells me things. I want to trust him when he tells me things. That's who I want to be. Now, that's who I have been. And over the last couple of months, I have recognized that that's not where I am currently. Currently, I have a little distrust. Currently, I don't trust. My thought is, I don't trust his thoughts. That's my current thought. Now, that's not the thought that I want to end up with. I'm fine. I'm accepting of it, right? No self-judgment. I'm accepting that it's there, seeing that it's there. It's totally fine, but it's not where I want to end up. It's not where I want to stay. So if I don't want to perpetuate it, then I'm going to change it. And this is my New Year's resolution. You guys following me? My resolution is to change it, to shift it. Now, if you guys aren't following my trust versus faith, where my brain is going with that, then I want to encourage you guys to come join my coaching program, because inside I have multiple modules and courses. I actually have a master class on how to trust. And part of trusting another human being, especially your spouse, is trusting yourself, learning how to make that mindset shift. And so that is what I'm going to work on this year. So if you ladies think about, okay, where am I and where do I want to be? Then you can ask yourself, how am I going to make that happen? For me, it is going to take conscious effort to look at my thoughts, to decide every single day that I trust my husband, that I have faith in him. I am going to choose faith in him. I'm going to choose trust in him, in who he is becoming, in who he is as a person, who I know he can be. That is my choice. That is something that is available to me every day, and that is the decision that I'm going to make, and it's going to take conscious effort. Y'all, I'm probably going to have to work on it with my coach a little bit, and that's okay too. I'm going to have to coach myself through it, and that's okay too. That's what it's going to look like. So the resolution isn't just this elusive idea. It's not just this nice thought. Oh, I'm in 2023, I'm going to have a lot more faith in my husband. No, what's my plan of action to make that happen? And it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of conscious effort. It's going to take a lot of coaching, and that's what I'm going to do. So I want you to encourage y'all to actually look at it. What is it that I want to do? Who do I want to become at the end of this year? And how am I going to make that happen? Because again, the things that you're doing right now are great, but they're only going to perpetuate the result that you already have. So look at yourself, especially, because of this podcast, in regards to your husband's pornography problem. Are you happy with where you are mentally, emotionally with it? Be 100% honest with yourself. If that's true, if you are absolutely okay with where you are, then there's nothing you have to change. Then you can just perpetuate. Then you can say, okay, what is it that I'm doing that's creating this result? Am I listening to this podcast weekly? Do I have a coach already? Do I not have a coach? Am I going to therapy? Like, what are the things? Am I journaling? Am I just doing this on my own? What are the things that are keeping me where I am? And is that something I'm okay with? Yes or no? And if not, then you get to decide, okay, well then what am I going to change to produce a different result? Because that's always the question. If we're not where we want to be, then there's something that we get to change in order to create a different result. Now, the reason that I titled this podcast Resolution is because that's what we call them, right? We call them New Year's resolutions, which is so fascinating. It's not really a word that we use a whole lot in our language. It's not a common word in our vernacular, right? And we don't discuss resolutions on the daily, right? We usually only discuss them once a year on New Year's Eve, right? So I wanted to look it up. So resolution, if you look it up, it's a noun, and it's a firm decision to do or not do something. Now, this is interesting because usually we think of resolutions as a way of, yes, we are going to do this thing, but they're also a decision, a firm decision to not do something. And I want to encourage you to do that too, because might be some things that this year you want to let go of, that this year you want to quit. I was almost going to do a podcast on quitting, and maybe I'll do that next week, but sometimes it's okay to quit. Did you know that? You can make a resolution to no longer do things. You can make a resolution to no longer question yourself. You can make a resolution to no longer gossip, to no longer allow yourself to spin in anxiety. You can make a resolution, a firm decision to not do something. And I want to encourage you to look at that just as much as you look at doing things. Make just as many resolutions to not do things, to no longer give in to fear, to no longer give in to self-doubt, to no longer think of yourself in terms of self-pity. It is okay to make just as many resolutions in that direction, and I would encourage you to do so. But as I was looking at this word resolution, the word that I was looking up was, okay, if we look at the word resolution, where does that come from? And I thought it was from the word resolve, and it is, okay? Now, there's actually from some Latin word from resolution or resolvere, which means to loosen or to release, which I find so fascinating and so in line with what I was just saying, right? A firm decision to not do something, to let something go, to release it. But then if you also look up the word resolve, this is the one that I actually find even more fascinating. It means to settle or find a solution to. And that's something I find really fascinating about the word resolution or resolve. Resolutions that we make are an attempt for us to resolve something. There's something inside of us that needs resolution, something that is in conflict, something that needs a solution inside of us, right? The who we are right now isn't who we want to be. We're in conflict internally. We need a solution. And that solution is a resolving, right? A resolution, something that takes where we are and where we want to be and puts them at ease with that firm decision to change or to let something go. Do you guys see this? This is so beautiful and so powerful, and it's so simple. I want you guys to take this moment to honestly reflect. Is there something inside me that needs to be resolved? Is the version that I am right now not the version who I want to be? And do I need to have a resolution between those two versions of myself? Are there emotions that I'm feeling that I've held on to for years that I want to finally let go of? Are there emotions that I need to resolve inside me? Are there thoughts that I need to resolve, that I need to find solutions to? That's the beauty of resolutions. It's taking who you are right now and seeing you for who you are, and then finding a solution to that, because it requires a solution, because otherwise we wouldn't feel any cognitive dissonance within us. Otherwise we wouldn't have this need for a resolution. Otherwise we would be perfectly happy and content. But even then, ladies, being perfectly happy and content is wonderful. And yet part of us, because we are human, strives for more. We are capable of so much more. And if you guys saw yourselves the way I see you, if you saw what you are capable of, if you saw the potential that I see in you, you wouldn't wait another moment, because I can see so much of you is so possible. And yet you are holding yourself back, your own brain, your own thoughts, your own unawareness, your own limitations, your own insecurities. They're holding you back from the person that you could become, that more confident version of yourself, the you that isn't afraid. She's there and she's possible and she's waiting for you. And she's totally there. And I see her and I know that you can get to her, because the only thing in between who you are right now and who you want to be, the only thing standing in your way are your thoughts and feelings. That's it. Your brain wants to say it's circumstances that you can't change, and all of that is BS, my friends. And I say that with all the love in my heart, because I know that it's true. There's nothing standing in your way. No job, no husband, no weight, no kids, no money. Nothing is in your way except your thoughts and feelings. And all of those are totally doable, totally resolvable, right? Everything can be resolved. And if you feel a calling inside of you, if you feel like there's something that you want to do that you haven't done yet, if you sit down and you ask yourself, all right, even if I'm not the type of person to make resolutions, if I were going to sit down and I were going to do it, what would I write? That right there is a clue to all the things inside of you that need a solution, that need resolution, that feel out of sync with the you that you know you can become. And that's what I want to encourage you to look at today. I want to encourage you to look at the you that you can become and believe for just a moment that it's possible. And if it is possible, how would you do it? And then you take the steps to make it happen. Because the you that you are today is a reflection of all of a series of choices of getting you here. And it's a beautiful version of you, one that is 100% worthy. And yet there's even another version of you waiting. Another version of you that is possible, a version of you that I see, that I want you to consider. And I want you to hold the belief for just a moment that it's possible that you can become her. And it is possible. And I know that because the only thing in between you is your thoughts and feelings. And I'm really good at seeing those, which is why I can see your potential. So if you need to borrow my belief, do it. 100%. You are always able and capable, and I give you permission to borrow the belief that I have in you, the belief that you can become the very best version of yourself that you want to be, the more confident, the more capable version of yourself that you don't believe is possible right now. She's there and she's available, and I know it. So borrow that and then hold it for just a minute every single day and ask yourself, if that's true, if it's possible that I could become her, what would she think? What would she do? How can I take a step today that's going to put me on the path one step closer to becoming the version of myself that I want to be? Because it's possible. And Jolene says I can do it. So it must be a little bit more possible than I think it is. Ladies, if you feel some cognitive dissonance inside you, I want to invite you to resolve it this year. And I would love to hear it, so share it with me. All right? I love you ladies so much. I hope you guys have a beautiful new year. I hope you guys had a great 2022, and let's make 2023 even better. I would love to help you do it. If you want help, come coach with me. I will help you every step of the way, and I would absolutely love to help you get to where you want to go, help you even figure out what it is that you want to do, who you want to become. I would love to help you with that journey, and I'll talk to you guys next week on a brand new episode. So take care. All right, ladies, if you are loving what you are learning on the podcast, I want to invite you to come join my coaching program. This is where we take it to the next level and we actually start applying and learning the how of moving forward. This podcast has taught you the what, and the coaching program is where you're going to learn the how. This is where you learn how to actually start moving forward, process all of that pain that you feel, and let it go once and for all. If you are ready to finally move forward and stop living a life that revolves around your husband's pornography addiction, then I want to invite you to come join me today. Just head to my website, jolenewayne.com, and sign up today. I can't wait to see you there.